This is Move It with the Five Diamond Group here at Vice Realty. My name is Jared Uraine, broker salesperson here at the Five Diamond Group at Vice Realty, and this is our episode number 1 of Move It. Stay tuned for all the goodies. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our first episode of the Five Diamond Group podcast. Move It is the theme because today we're going to be talking about a variety of different subjects. But this is going to be my first experience to be able to go through the actual podcast process here. And I'm going to do it my way, the way I feel it in my head, in my heart. And if I've got to deal with the legal components of music and so forth, so be it. So be it. So today is episode 1. We're going to do Move It. For future reference, our outline is basically going to be following a kind of a 4 or 5 part component to it. First, we're going to start with a local neighborhood community that I'd like to highlight. Now, this is kind of a throwback to some radio episodes that I had done at a radio station here in Spanish, and we went through about 8 or 9 episodes before we really got our feet going. And so I've got a bunch of content I'd like to be able to bring back and talk more about our community, our neighborhood. And we're going to start from the beginning, really when Vegas started. And we're going to take it back to the early days of when downtown was really established, kind of walk through each session that's there. And as well as being able to kind of follow the progression of how the city grew and each neighborhood, how it had a different impact through the process of the growth of this city. And then we'll get to a point where we will see most of the last 25 years really just kind of flourish in the best part of what we know as current Vegas. So that segment's going to be our neighborhood gems, something that I'm pretty proud of that I thought we had going with it. And because I'm such a musical person, I have a background in radio and music, I'm going to bring music to the play. I know it's not typical for podcasts, but this is going to be a curated list of songs that I just am really connected to, and I'm going to associate some of those as part of the history that comes in with our neighborhood gems. So this is more of the first component of what that's going to look like over the next couple of weeks as we go through and take that from there. The other components that you can include as a part of this podcast is going to be the market updates. We're going to do local, national, break them down, really get some depth to it so you can understand what's happening in the current marketplace. And of course, we're going to tie it all together as to how it affects our lives individually. Whether you're an agent or you're a buyer or seller, we're looking to see how that can really fit into today's play because we know things are changing technology-wise, industry-wise, just in the world, and it's just something that we just need to keep ourselves focused with every day. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up with a service provider or a vendor. Someone's going to be sponsoring this episode every week, and we definitely want to highlight those local communities and community services as well as vendors that are here in town. And so if you know of somebody who can really take a benefit of joining a podcast, being able to help our local community, we want to give back that way. Feel free to drop it in the text, in the DM. In fact, while you're here, you might as well subscribe to this and get notified every time an episode gets published or we have some updates because we're going to be doing a lot of takeaways in the course of all of these items. So that's the basic overview of what our podcast is going to look like. I'm looking forward to be able to doing this consistently with my buddy Lex behind the scenes. You'll probably hear him moving around. And again, just wanted to thank you, first of all, for joining us. And I'm going to jump straight into the market update because our first episode is still in our first neighborhood is still in the process of being refined. So when it comes down to our market update, nationally, we want to make sure that you are aware of what those numbers are. Now, we're seeing a shift. If I were to put a headline to this, the headline for the real estate market update is going to be, is this the bottom of the housing reset? Nationally, we have seen mortgage rates make adjustments. In fact, as of January of 2022, a year ago, we started at 3.22%. And as the year continued on, when the Fed raised their rate, in March, it started ticking up over 4%, and we continued in that progression all the way through October, where we reached the peak of 7.08% mortgage rates. Now, these are long-term rates. Since December of 2022, we are now at an average of 6.42%, which means we've dropped from the peak, and that is good news for you because in today's market, we're starting to see the end of this hike. Now, you add that to the average number of homes that have been sold over the last 5-7 years. We're averaging that around 4 million units nationwide. That boils down to about 11,000 houses per minute, if you can imagine that. I'm sorry, let me change that. 11,000 homes a day, 8 homes per minute in terms of how that's broken down. When the Fed started raising their rates, now I'm going to switch over to the Federal Reserve. When they decided to tackle inflation in March of last year, they started raising rates, and that was what contributed to our long-term mortgage rates to increase as well. And in June, when the Fed said, hey, we don't have this under control, in fact, we want to reset the housing market, that was kind of like a warning shot, more of just be prepared, because that's what happened in the final part of 2022. Head down into July of 2022, and we have seen a negative appreciation, meaning things started reversing, home prices started going down of 1% on average nationwide. And that slowed down when we reached October and November. It actually went under 1% nationwide. Now, those are good signs nationally, and I'll show you what that looks like here locally. But the bottom line is that the Fed knows what they're doing. They're trying to slow the inflation rate down. They're trying to slow the market down so that things don't get out of control. Because when we were going into 2022, home price appreciation was really aggressive, 20% in 21. That's not normal, folks. The average appreciation for a home over the course of the last 90, 95 years has been anywhere between 3 to 5%. The average should be around 3 to 4%. So 4 to 5 times greater than it would normally take place. That needed to happen. And so that is an appropriate move by the federal government to help kind of slow things down. And we're seeing the transition and the effects of that really happen. The Federal Reserve said in June they want to reset the housing market. Are we at that reset button? Quite possibly. Here are some of the statistics. Take a look at this. The Fed had increased their points all year at 0.75 points all the way into November. Come December, they started seeing some shift, some changes, and they dropped that down to 0.5 points. Now, that's an indicator that that's nothing. What really happens here in January, at the end of January, they've moved that down to 0.25. Now, there's a pattern there. We've got 3 steps in a row where the Fed has actually pulled back from their increased rates, and that's a good sign. Now, it's not over yet. They're probably going to continue to click it up, hopefully no more than 0.25 points, if not less than, and that will continue to reinforce the statement that we might be at the bottom of this reset button. Mortgage long-term rates have prepared for these movements and have adjusted based on the Fed's slowed down increase. And we can see that by a lot of the evidence that we're seeing in the mortgage rates. Peak at 7.08 in October, and now here we are in February, with 6.48 points on average. Now, that's the average mortgage long-term rate right now. The quote that I think really we need to take away from this, and really the point, is from a former Assistant Secretary of Housing. He said, this might be the one and only window in the next few years to get into a buyer's market. And I absolutely agree with that. We're seeing a lot of evidence of that happen. The Federal Reserve data shows that home prices only go up, and they always recover from a recession. And that's what we are in the middle of, folks. So what does that mean to you? That means the timing, if you've been thinking about buying or making the transition, is now. Now in the next few months, in the foreseeable future, make yourselves prepared. Get yourselves ready. Do what it takes to be able to get yourselves into that buying position. If you've been renting and you're seeing rents go up, this is the reason why you want to buy. You don't want to see those rents go up. If you are a homeowner, you're not going to be worried about that for 30 years. And depending on what kind of loan you get, in fact, we're going to talk about some of those options, that might help you in your position to be able to get into a lower rate with certain programs. But just to reiterate, this might be the one and only window for the next couple of years to get into a buyer's market, because when we hit the bottom, what happens? We expect it to go up. So that is really the point here, friends. This is a unique buying opportunity. Take advantage of this shift and really consider all of the options that you have. There are so many different mortgage options for you to get out there and utilize. It's really important to be able to have that consultation, be able to understand what your options are specifically, because everyone has a different situation. We know that more homes are selling faster. We've seen a lot of that activity happen locally. In fact, my takeaway from all of this is that it's very possible that we have hit the reset button locally, and we certainly expect at this point in the year for the activity to increase. And so let's dive into the local numbers. Our median price point, in fact, I want to highlight this, kind of a recap from last year. January of 2022, we were at $450,000 as our median price point with 0.7 months of inventory. That was the case for most of 2021. We had less than 1 month of inventory, and that contributed to home prices accelerating so fast, to the point where when we crossed over the $400,000 mark, it was kind of like a shock. Like, wait a minute, no one in Las Vegas has seen a $400,000 price point for a home on average ever. Well, come January of 2022, $450,000, we just blew right past 400 and less than 1 month of inventory. Let's jump ahead to April or March, when the Fed started raising rates and it affected mortgage rates. We started seeing some shift happening, some changes happening. Our median price point peaked at $482,000. I would call that the fastest acceleration of home values, probably in Las Vegas history. But we hit the peak, $482,000 for a home. That's pretty much what I guessed. I figured if somebody's coming from California and they're going to pay $500,000 for a home, it better be a damn nice home. At $472,000 or $482,000, that's probably not going to work out right if that's the median price point on average. So $482,000 seemed appropriate for us to be at the peak, and we started trending downward for the remainder part of the year. Fast forward to September, where we crossed back over the $450,000 price point with now 4 months of inventory. Those are good signs. We went from less than 1 month to 4 months in a matter of nine months. October of 2022, $440,000. November of 2022, $430,000. December of 2022, $425,000. Now, if you're looking at on a graph, it certainly looks like things have been slowing down as far as our median price point. And with 4 months of inventory, and you calculate how much has actually been coming into the pipeline, all the new inventory, we're starting to see a trend here. Things starting to level off here locally. And what I can tell you, since December, a lot more activity has happened with buyers and sellers hitting the market. Homes have been selling for shorter time than they had been most of 2022. And we're certainly seeing, as far as my takeaway, I expect the median price point to be somewhere around the low 400s. And our inventory is going to bottom out. We're going to see more listings come on board. We're going to see more buyer activity. We're going to certainly see more real estate values continue to level off, if not start to appreciate later part of this year. And that's my takeaway on that. So as far as the local national markets, there's going to be the breakdown for that. And back to now, mortgages. Could probably do a segue right there with some music. That would be a good way to do it. Mortgages. So tied to all this, of course, is what can you afford, right? If you don't have cash to buy a house, you want to borrow some of that money, and that's what we consider the long-term mortgage rates. What are your options? What do you have? What's available? Well, besides the rates that you qualify for, let's consider some of the alternatives that might help you get approved. There are 3 different ways that you can really take an alternative approach to traditional lending. Today, we can consider adjustable mortgage rates. Now, that might have been a taboo word about 12, 14 years ago, because the previous 2 recessions, or I should say the Great Recession of 2010, let's put it in that context, that was a contributing factor of adjustable mortgage rates, but there were so many other factors tied to it. That's not a taboo word. The fact is, adjustable mortgage rates are a great option for buyers today. We're not in the same market, and they're certainly not the same programs that used to be back then. In order to qualify for a mortgage today, you've got to qualify. You actually have to disclose your income and then qualify. The adjustable mortgage rate option allows you to lock in a lower rate for a certain number of years. And after a certain period of time, it'll adjust to whatever that next step is, or the current rate based on the average nationally. And what that does is it gives you an option to be able to lock in a current lower rate for a certain period of time. And if the market changes where you might have a better option, then you can refinance in that time, get out of that one and move on to the next one. That is the point of an adjustable rate. You really need to get educated on what those options are and be very clear as to what that term is, because you do not want to misunderstand and be locked into something that you just aren't ready for when the rate shifts. The second option and that we're seeing a lot of activity on is rate buydowns. Rate buydowns are simply this: being able to throw some more money in the course of the purchase and getting a lower interest rate. Now, that might come in the form of you putting out more money out of your pocket, but if you've got a great realtor or someone on our team, we're going to negotiate those terms from the seller because, hey, there's enough inventory that the sellers really need to get something sold. More than likely, sellers are prepared to not only offer contributions, but those contributions can be translated into the form of a rate buydown. And that means you have a lower monthly payment, you qualify for more. And that is better for you in the long term. Definitely consider those as your option. Get clarity as to what those numbers are. Each lender will have a different price point. It's not going to be excessive. They're going to be within the same tolerance level. But at the end of the day, understand what your numbers are and see what it takes for you to get that number that you really, really want. Rate buydowns. The last option, and really something to consider in today's marketplace, is down payment assistance. Now, this is a program that's been out in our marketplace for years, ever since I've known about the business. And down payment assistance is a program as a part of the state of Nevada, as well as other programs based on which city and community you're working on. But the down payment assistance programs certainly offer you a way to be able to throw money at your down payment and closing costs, and also contribute towards your purchase in your home. Down payment assistance programs have certain qualifications and they have certain terms that'll help you in the course of that purchase, and it is really important that you get an understanding of what those options are. If you're a teacher, if you're a firefighter, if you're a police officer, if you have some sort of contribution as a first responder, these are all programs that you can take advantage of to help you in your purchase. So if you don't have all of the funds, this is one way to help you in that regard. So those are three different ways that the mortgage options that are out there today, some alternatives to the good old traditional financing that you might not be aware of. When it comes to being able to know what your options are, communication is key. And when it comes to taking care of our clients, we want to make sure that they have all of the information the first time. One of the ways that we tackle that is by having a consultation. The consultation itself is generally around 30 to 45 minutes, but it is literally a sit-down session, a face-to-face opportunity to be able to get to know each other, and more importantly, dive deep into the wants and needs of you, the client. This consultation is the beginning of a relationship. It's a conversation that you want to have, and it's really important in this industry that you as a client or as an agent, you do this consultation with your clients. If you're working with an agent who has not sat down with you and had a full consultation, I would really question that relationship. And here's the reason why. While we do work in an industry that seems pretty simple, I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, I need 1,400 square feet, I just want it in this area, that could be the gist of what most agents consider to be a consultation because I got the criteria. But the fact is that does nothing. That's just the information and doesn't establish a relationship with your clients. Communication really starts when you sit down and really have a one-on-one dialogue, a back and forth, an understanding of what you, the client's motivation is, and B, what the market does. That's the agent's job, is to understand what your motivators are, understand what options you're willing to work with and not accept, or B, what your long-term objectives are. If you don't feel that your agent has that level of clarity in your relationship, you should really reevaluate that or ask them to have that. Because without that information, it's really hard to navigate in today's market. Communication is the beginning of a great relationship or the beginning of a terrible one if you don't have it. And so when it comes down to being able to work in today's environment, it is truly, truly imperative to make sure that you have communication, not just with your agent, but also an understanding of what the current market situation is. So that is my takeaway for our advice in the industry. That's the next segment that we've had, the advice of the industry. The next segment is going to be our inspirational moment, folks. When it comes to our life, there are so many distractions that we've got. You've got the theme on this one is going to be eat your cake. Do what matters to you. Because in this world, we see so many distractions that are happening in the world. We see so many things that are skewing the perspective of what reality should be like. As people get older and start getting more involved in this social media world, the YouTube worlds, you can either have it to help you or have it distract you. And unfortunately, it's having a negative effect on people's self-worth and distorted realities of the way things should be. And the reason why I say eat your cake and eat it too is because we had gone on this trip in Antarctica, and I met a gentleman on there, 70-something years old. First cruise he's ever done, first major trip. And he said, if I can survive this trip, because it was Antarctica, we had to cross the Drake Passage. If you don't know about the Drake Passage, look it up. Drake Passage, terrible, terrible. I mean, why would somebody pay to go on a cruise ship to do this? It was a pretty crazy trip, right? So this gentleman, 70 years old, he said, if I can survive this trip, then I can survive anything, pretty much. And he was right. I mean, if you can get through that and have a good time with it, he did. In fact, he said, I should have done this 40 years ago. That is a reoccurring theme with all of our travels that we had done, is that people wish they had done this sooner. And I can't emphasize that enough. If it's coming to vacations, if it's doing something that is super important to you in your life, if you think that this means something to you in your life, if you need to take a risk, do it. Just consider the realities, but don't let the fear of something stop you. Eat that cake and have fun with it. Too many people work too hard and they put the fun stuff off for the older age. In fact, I was just leaving my son's soccer game this weekend, and a gentleman, he was having a super hard time walking, almost kind of paralyzed. And, his comment was, you can't take life too seriously. He worked so hard to try and enjoy his retirement years, and now he's physically deteriorating, and he can't do that. If you don't have that kind of fun in life, man, then what do you end up with? Don't take it too seriously. Yes, take care of your responsibilities. Yes, have fun with it. But man, eat your cake. Have some fun. But be responsible and do it. We only got one life. Take advantage of it and, do what's right. Not just for you, but also for other people, because that's something that we really need to be aware of. Sharing our experiences with others and really showing love to others that are out there. That moves us on to our sponsor and our guest. And our guest just walked through the door, Isaac. He's been telling me that he does not want to be a part of this, but you don't have to get on the phone if you don't want to, man. He's pretending over there. So in this first episode of Move It, the 5 Diamond Group, is our media department. In fact, that includes you, Lex. The 5 Diamond Group Media Department, what's up? This is our man right here. 5 Diamond Group Media Department is a part of our 5 Diamond Group brand, but it is also a service that we can provide to both realtors and private individuals. The realtor department allows for professional photography. Now that we have up to 100 photos of high quality photos, make a world of difference when it comes to getting your house sold. And a lot of folks just don't want to pay for it, mainly because either they're cheap or they think they can do it on their mobile phone. And like Lex said, why take the blame for taking crappy pictures when you can hire us and we'll take the blame for you for crappy pictures? Put your insert here, man. But the point is that when it comes to marketing property, especially in today's market where inventories have gone up, it is super important to get the attention of the buyers in today's media scrolling society, getting that thumb stop action. You need something that not only stands out, but that highlights you as the agent of expertise. Professional photos, hands down, have always been the answer. But in today's society, it's not just photos. We also need video, and that's where we definitely come into play. Our packages do allow realtors to be able to include photos and videos as a part of the program so that you can get everything done in one package and delivered to you in a safe and quick manner without having to break the bank for you. That is the 5 Diamond Media Package. Check out our website for more information on that. Now, if you are a customer, a buyer and seller, and you need professional video and photography services, well, of course, we can handle that as well. Whatever it takes as far as weddings or special events, headshots, we also have pricing packages available for that. That's the 5 Diamond Media Group and our media package today, a part of the 5 Diamond Group of services. Well, friends, that does it for today's episode 1 of Move It with the 5 Diamond Group. My name is Jared Uraine. I'm a broker salesperson here at the 5 Diamond Group at Vice Realty. I want to thank you for joining me today in this special experience of episode 1. Look forward to episode 2, and I hope to see you on the streets.